I've been reading a book lately on Eddie Merckx, the cyclist, and to be honest with you, I didn't really know that much about him. I knew like he was a big name in cycling, but I didn't realise how much he had kind of dominated cycling for the guts of 10 years. Um, anyway, one of the things that really became apparent from reading his book for me was that there was a lot of talk in it of that he didn't leave a lot of wins for other people, that he was constantly competing, and it didn't matter whether it was a small one-day race or whether it was a big like Tour de France race, that he was constantly up for it and he wanted that win. But I think from reading it for myself, one of the massive things in it was that it wasn't a competition with other people. It was a competition for him to see how far he could push himself. Because I think that he believed that if he wasn't riding flat out and he wasn't putting 100% into what he was doing, that it was a waste of his talent. But the other thing with it was that he always seemed to be on the go. He always seemed to be working, finding other things he could do, extra ways that could help himself to win. And he was meticulous about that. But in the way that you see a lot of cyclists now and a lot of people now, it's kind of, you have your race days and you have your down days. He just seemed to have that insatiable appetite for winning. And that meant that he didn't seem to have down days. The only time he wasn't cycling was when he was sick. And that it really just got me thinking about that thing of like just instilling that in early on. And that when it brings back to the kind of like the online marketing, or if you're building a business, whatever it is that you're doing, that it's, what is that habit that you can create? Because like if you've just gone out and won, for him, he's like, we went out, we won the Tour de France. But everybody in his team kind of said like there was never any big celebrations. It was, you went out, you did the business, you did your job, and you won. But that it wasn't like everybody went crazy and had a good time and had a couple of days off. It was straight down and constantly doing that work. And that's what I'm starting to see, is that if you're willing to actually come up with that plan, realise that wherever it is up ahead, that's the goal you want to get to, that you realise that I may have to like write a blog every day, or I may have to put up a video every day. And if you're actually willing to instill that in early on, to actually be dogged about that and make sure that gets done all the time. And like that's the big difference, is that there's people out there who are, like I watched a video this morning on, it was an interview with two self-made millionaires in the UK. And it was quite interesting because there seems to be like a fragility almost around these people who are doing exceptionally well by society standards, if you like. And that it didn't seem to be, it seemed to be that thing of like there's a slight insecurity underneath it all, to want to prove it to everybody else. And that, excuse me, that never really goes away. So they keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. And regardless of the material wealth that they get, it doesn't seem to be enough. And I'm starting to see that it's that thing of actually having balance, having actually, if you're willing to look at yourself and see what you're actually doing and see why you're doing things, you can actually come around to having some sort of a balance in your life and feeling happy about it. But that I actually think that edge of not feeling good enough is it seems to be quite an important thing there for a lot of entrepreneurs. That they're constantly wanting to prove themselves. And it was the same thing with Eddie Merckx in the cycling. He constantly felt he wasn't good enough. And he felt that he had to ride flat out all the way through because he didn't think he was good enough if there was going to be a sprint at the end. So it's the same thing with the internet marketing, is that you need to get in the habit of doing that work every day. Granted, you don't need to do it every day. You can block it so that it gets done every day. But that it needs to be that instilled in you. So that regardless of whether you're having your wins or whether you're having a bad day, that work is always getting done. So just really wanted to share that. There's just another person that I've come across that just seemed to be the same thing as, kind of reminded me a little bit of Steve Jobs when I read his autobiography, that when you have somebody and they're so focused on that goal, they will do anything to get there. If that's like not sleeping, if that's like doing extra work, if that's making sure that other people do their jobs correctly, they will do that because that's the focus. And for a lot of people, they don't have that focus. But that you can develop that focus, you can get what you want. But it does take that level of actual focus to get there.